Right now, in Islamabad, Pakistan, a diplomatic clock is ticking, and it is loud. The United States and Iran are locked in these incredibly high-stakes talks, trying to pull back from the brink of a massive war. And honestly, what happens here could completely reshape the entire Middle East.
So, here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at the summit itself. Then, we're going to rewind a bit to see how we even got here. After that, we'll dig into what each side really wants, check out the possible outcomes, and then get to the strategic bottom line, the one big idea that explains this whole situation.
All right, let's get right into it. The whole world is watching Islamabad right now, a city that's suddenly become the absolute center of global diplomacy.
And you have to understand, this is not just another boring diplomatic meeting. This is the last-ditch effort, a critical off-ramp to avoid a direct war, a conflict that has already sent shockwaves through global energy markets. The tension there is just palpable, and the stakes, well, they couldn't be any higher.
You know, the choice of venue here is actually pretty interesting. Why Pakistan? Well, their role is absolutely crucial. They managed to keep good relations with Washington, with Tehran, and with other key players in the region. That makes them one of the only countries on Earth that both sides could trust to be a truly neutral host for these super fragile talks.
Okay, so how on earth did we get here so fast? I mean, this whole thing went from just simmering tension to a full-blown crisis in what felt like the blink of an eye.
This timeline really shows you the rapid-fire escalation. It all kicked off in late February with those coordinated strikes. Then, bam, Iran hits back, messing with Gulf shipping. That's when the Strait of Hormuz, that vital artery for the world's oil, becomes the flashpoint. And the U.S. response? A full naval blockade on Iranian ports. For Tehran, that was basically an act of war. It was this dangerous tit-for-tat back and forth that finally forced both sides to sit down and talk.
So that first round of talks, it was an absolute marathon. We're talking 21 hours straight. That number alone, 21 hours, tells you everything you need to know about how urgent this is and just how many incredibly complex issues they're trying to untangle. This was by far the highest level direct meeting between the US and Iran in decades.
And just look at the massive hurdles they were trying to get over. You've got Iran's nuclear program, U.S. sanctions, the security of the Strait of Hormuz, and of course those regional proxy networks, the militias backed by Iran. Every single one of these issues is a diplomatic minefield on its own. Which brings us right to the heart of it all. What does each side actually want to walk away with? And this is where you see the fundamental deadlock. For the U.S., it's about avoiding a huge, costly war, calming down oil prices, and of course, stopping any rapid nuclear progress. But for Iran, they desperately need to end that crippling blockade, get sanctions relief for their economy, and protect their national sovereignty. See the problem? Both sides are under incredible pressure, but what they want, it's in direct opposition.
So with all these competing pressures, where is this whole thing likely to end up? Let's break down the 4 most probable scenarios coming out of this next round. Okay, so if you look at the probabilities, the most likely outcome at 45% isn't some huge peace treaty, but it's not a total collapse either. What experts are betting on is a limited, temporary deal. You can think of it like a quick fix. Something to just lower the temperature, keep the ceasefire going, and most importantly, keep them talking. A massive breakthrough? That's still a real long shot. And if we dig a little deeper into those predictions, a few things stand out. First, everyone agrees the most urgent economic problem, reopening the Strait of Hormuz, that's probably going to get solved before they even touch the super complicated nuclear stuff. And this is key. Even if the public headlines screamed failure, you can bet those back-channel talks will keep going. A public stall doesn't mean it's over. All right, for our last point, let's zoom all the way out. Because there's one core concept that really explains the entire dynamic here, why these talks are even happening in the first place.
Look, this has nothing to do with friendship or building trust. Not at all. This is about 2 longtime rivals who've pushed each other right to the edge. They've both looked over the cliff and realized that the cost of taking one more step, the cost of more conflict, is just too high for either of them to bear. It's that mutual exhaustion that's dragging them to the table.
And that leaves us with the big, lingering question, doesn't it? When 2 rivals are just plain tired of fighting, is that a real foundation for peace? Or is this fragile calm we're seeing in Islamabad just a pause, a quick breather before the next crisis kicks off all over again?